a sleek black Lexus Jeep approached. Its tinted windows hid the passengers from view, but the way it glided on the wet road made it stand out. The officers exchanged glances. This was it. The description matched perfectly. They raised their hands. The Jeep slowed, tires splashing water, before stopping gently by the roadside. The back door opened, and out stepped a man whose appearance was almost theatrical. He was dressed in a perfectly pressed blue suit, with a red tie that seemed to glow even under the gray sky. A shiny brooch gleamed on his chest. His bald head reflected the weak sunlight, polished and neat. He smiled, revealing perfect white teeth. "Good afternoon, officers," he said warmly, his voice confident but soothing. "I am Pastor Joshua, the General Overseer of Miracle Banquet Church. I have an important crusade in the next village. Souls are waiting for deliverance. God bless you for your service." To anyone else, his presence alone would have been enough to wave him through. He looked every inch the wealthy, respectable pastor. His words carried the weight of someone used to commanding crowds. But the officers remembered the call. They nodded politely and said, "Thank you, sir. We are on a routine check. Kindly open your boot." For the first time, Pastor Joshua's smile wavered. He raised a hand in mock blessing. "Gentlemen, please. I am already late. Let me pass, and heaven will reward you." But the officer in charge did not move. "It won't take long, sir. Just a quick look." Pastor Joshua sighed deeply, then reached into his pocket. He pulled out thick bundles of Naira notes, neatly arranged. Money enough to tempt any ordinary man. He extended it casually, with the charm of someone who had done this before. "Take this, my brothers. Use it to care for your families. Let me pass quickly." The younger officer's hand twitched toward the money, but the leader stepped forward. His eyes burned with anger. He slapped the money to the ground and shouted, "We don't need your money. Open the boot, Pastor." The moment grew heavy. Pastor Joshua's polished smile disappeared. His jaw tightened. Slowly, reluctantly, he turned to the Jeep and pressed the boot release. The boot rose. What the officers saw made their knees weak. Inside were 4 fresh human heads, wrapped in white cloths already stained with blood. The smell of raw flesh hit them immediately, sharp and nauseating. One officer staggered backward, his hand covering his mouth. Another shouted uncontrollably, drawing the attention of passers-by. Within minutes, a crowd had gathered. People gasped. Women screamed. Some fell to the ground, crying. Others shouted angrily, spitting on the road. But not everyone believed. A man in the crowd pushed forward, shaking his head violently. "No. It cannot be Pastor Joshua. This man is a giver. He paid for my son's school fees. He built a borehole for our community. He is a man of God." Another voice, sharp with rage, answered, "You fool! Haven't I been telling you that these so-called miracle pastors are liars? Look at what he carries in his car." The argument spread through the crowd like wildfire. Some defended him, swearing he was innocent, that the heads must have been planted. Others cursed him, saying the truth was finally exposed. Pastor Joshua, meanwhile, stood still. His face was blank, his lips pressed together. Not a word left his mouth. To understand how this man had come to such a shameful fall, we must go back years earlier, to when he was just another preacher struggling to survive in Abuja. In those days, Joshua was not yet famous. He preached in small rented halls, moving from one location to another, carrying nothing but a Bible and an unshakable ambition. He was eloquent. His voice carried power. He told stories that stirred hearts, and he performed little tricks that people mistook for miracles. Slowly, he gathered followers. Then came the turning point. It is whispered that during those early days, when money was scarce and growth slow, he was introduced to a secret fraternity. They promised him success beyond imagination. They promised him crowds, wealth, and influence, if only he would agree to their terms. At first, he hesitated. But the hunger for power consumed him. He wanted to be more than a street preacher. He wanted to be a household name. And so, he accepted their offer. The covenant was simple but horrifying. Every year, he was to provide 4 fresh human heads. That blood would be the sacrifice that fueled his rise. And so it began. Year after year, he met the demand. Disappearances went unnoticed in the city. Strangers vanished, beggars disappeared, youths never returned home. Few connected the dots. After all, who would suspect Pastor Joshua, the smiling man who built schools, who fed widows, who stood in the pulpit shouting, "Hallelujah"? His church grew. From a few dozen, to hundreds, to thousands. Miracle Banquet Church became one of the largest in Abuja. Politicians sat in his front row, businessmen carried his Bible, and women rushed to touch his suit. His cars multiplied. His houses sparkled. His crusades were broadcast across the nation. He was untouchable. But secrets cannot hide forever. The blood he shed had cried too loudly. And on that rainy Friday afternoon, judgment finally caught up with him. The officers recovered from their shock and pounced. They handcuffed him despite his protests. "You don't know who I am," he shouted. "Touch not my anointed. God will punish you." But the people no longer believed. They saw the evidence with their own eyes. They saw the heads, the blood, the horror. Phones recorded everything, and within minutes, the news spread like fire. By nightfall, Abuja was in chaos. Some church members collapsed in grief, wailing in the streets. Others, angry and betrayed, stormed the gates of Miracle Banquet Church, demanding answers. The media feasted on the story. "Pastor caught with 4 human heads in Abuja Jeep," screamed every headline. TV stations replayed the footage again and again. On social media, people debated furiously. Some defended him to the last breath, claiming it was a government setup. Others cursed him as the devil's servant. In court, the truth unfolded. Prosecutors presented evidence of his occult ties. Witnesses spoke of missing relatives. Former associates whispered of strange midnight meetings, of rituals that left the air heavy with fear. The jury listened, and the public watched in horror. Finally, the gavel fell. Pastor Joshua, once celebrated as a man of God, was sentenced to years behind bars. His properties were seized. His church crumbled. His name became a byword for shame. And so the mighty fell. This story carries a lesson deeper than the shock of the crime. It teaches that not every man who carries a Bible, not every man who prays loudly, is truly of God. Some use the pulpit as a mask, hiding darkness behind holy words. It also warns of the danger of blind faith. How many ignored the signs because of his gifts? How many excused his excesses because he gave to the poor? Evil can clothe itself in generosity. A snake can slither into a house carrying bread in its mouth. So I ask you, if you had been there that day, standing by the highway, watching that boot swing open, what would you have believed? Would you have trusted your eyes, or clung to the image of the man you once adored? Evil does not always come with horns. Sometimes it comes dressed in a blue suit, with a red tie, smiling and blessing. But one truth never changes. Whatever is hidden in darkness will one day be exposed in the light. And that is the story of Pastor Joshua, the popular pastor caught with 4 human heads in his car.